Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's training session. Our focus today is fueling the mission, budgeting and fundraising essentials for sustainable country programs. As global leaders at Best Buddies, we know that programs cannot survive on passion alone. Strong operations, clear budgets, and effective fundraising are what allow us to transform inclusion from a dream into a sustainable reality. Throughout this training, we'll explore both budgeting and fundraising, how they work together, and how you can apply best practices in your own countries to build strong, lasting programs. The first segment of today's training will focus on budgeting, budget basics and purpose, budget development process, best practices in budget management, donor and grant alignment, financial stewardship and accountability, and BBI support. Let's start with the basics. A budget is more than just numbers on a spreadsheet. It is a reflection of your mission, your priorities, and your plan for sustainability. There are three main types of budgets you'll encounter. Organizational budgets. These cover the full scope of your nonprofit's operations. Program budgets. These focus on specific initiatives like friendship or jobs. Project budgets. Short-term activities or events. Budgets matter because they allow us to align our financial resources with our mission impact. Without a clear budget, it's impossible to show donors, partners, or governments that we're using the funds responsibly. Developing a budget involves three steps. First, forecasting income. For Best Buddies, this could come from corporations, governments, events like friendship walks or galas, individuals through crowdfunding or high net worth donors, foundations, or other streams. Second, estimating expenses. Think about fixed versus variable costs or direct versus indirect. For example, salaries are fixed and direct, while printing flyers may be variable and indirect. And third, allocating funds. A strong budget makes sure resources are balanced between programs and operations. Remember, programs cannot succeed without solid operations behind them. Here are examples of how a Best Buddies budget might look. On the revenue side, you'll list all expected income by category, and you'll want to categorize that revenue into two segments: unrestricted revenue and restricted revenue. Unrestricted revenue means that there are not specific conditions for how you use the funds, whereas restricted revenue, there are very clear, detailed guidelines and restrictions on what you can use those funds for. And so it's good to understand how much of the type of funds you have in each category. After you've determined revenue, you will then shift over to expenses. And expenses can be broken down into three categories. So the first is personnel, operations, and fundraising. So looking at the personnel expenses, you will include salaries, fringe benefits, any external consultants you may have, and other, and then you will subtotal that. Next, operating. You will need to include the Best Buddies International accreditation fee, delivery, so anything that you need to be sent out, equipment for your organization. This could be a computer, fixed assets, telecommunications for phone bills, travel that you maybe need to do related to the Best Buddies programs, any memberships for your organizations, the office rent, postage, printing, utilities, public awareness for marketing, publications. We say staff leadership conference here, but this could also be for the Global Staff Forum, staff training for your internal team, and of course, supplies. As a reminder, having this level of detail in your budget allows you to track how much is going toward program impact versus administrative needs, which is something donors always ask about, and some even have certain restrictions around the distribution. So, now looking at programs, you should include items for Leadership Training Day, the BBI Leadership Conference, recruitment of your participants, events that you have for them, and the ongoing volunteer management. Shifting over to fundraising, if there are any expenses for your board of directors, corporate development, fundraising stewardship, marketing, if you host a friendship walk or the Champion of the Year event, or any other fundraising events. And then you subtotal all of those categories to find all of your operational expenses and program expenses and fundraising expenses and personnel expenses. Best practices in budget management. Once a budget is created, it must be managed. Here are 3 best practices that can help you. Align your budget with your strategic goals. This is where your CRM can support you in tying numbers to your country's strategic plan. Track and monitor expenses versus budget. Use 3 column lines: budget, actual expenses, and the variance. The variance shows where you're over or under spending. And lastly, stay flexible. If something changes mid year, adjust your budget instead of ignoring reality. Build in contingencies when possible. Donor and grant alignment. Budgets also need to align with funder requirements. Many donors place restrictions on how funds can be used. For example, a government grant might only cover staff salaries, not events. It's also important to document in kind contributions and volunteer time. These have real value and can strengthen your reporting. Finally, always report transparently. Donors, board members, and communities need to see where the money goes and what impact it achieves. Financial stewardship and accountability. Every staff member has a role in safeguarding funds. That means following internal controls, getting approvals, saving receipts, and keeping documentation on file. Many grants require records for years in case of audits. Compliance is not optional. We must follow both local laws and Best Buddies International's global standards. This ensures our credibility and builds donor trust. BBI budget support. You're not alone in this work. Work with your CRM to develop and update your country budget, and make sure you use the tools on the hub, which include sample budget templates designed for different stages of development and different programs. So now that you have your budget projections in place, it's time to develop a plan around how to get the money for the budget. So now we will pivot to focus on fundraising. We will cover fundraising fundamentals, the ask, donor stewardship, staff role in fundraising, ethics and cultural considerations, and the support our department can give you throughout the process. Fundraising fundamentals. Now let's turn to fundraising, the fuel that makes our budgets possible. The goal of fundraising is diversification. Relying on one income stream is risky. If that funding falls through, the entire operations can fall through. Instead, seek a mix of resources: corporate partners, government funding at the local, national, and regional levels, events like Friendship Walks or Champion of the Year, individuals through crowdfunding, peer to peer fundraising, and high net worth donors, foundations, and other specific sources unique to your country. It's also important to understand the difference between restricted funds, which must be spent in a specific way, and unrestricted funds, which seem to be the most desired type of funding, which can give you a lot of flexibility. Now we will discuss the ask. Fundraising starts with the ask, and here are some key principles. Telling the Best Buddies story in a compelling way. If appropriate, share your why. Why are you involved with Best Buddies? Focus on impact and not just the financial need. Consider your ask a gift through the organization is a gift to the community. People give to people, and relationships matter. The Pareto principle applies to here. Often, 80% of funds come from just 20% of donors, so that means you need to knock on a lot of doors. A reminder that wealth is not always obvious, so do not make assumptions. Timing and personalization are everything, and the right request at the right time is key. Remember, fundraising is not a standalone activity. It's connected to programs, relationships, and the entire mission. Often, we get nervous when we're asking people for money, but we need to remember that we are asking on behalf of our buddies and the amazing impact that our programs create. We hope that these points can help you feel confident when you are making your ask. Donor stewardship. Fundraising doesn't end when a donation is received. Stewardship is what builds long term relationships. That means thanking donors promptly, acknowledging both financial and in kind contributions, especially time, and reporting back on the impact their gift made. A donor who feels appreciated and informed is far more likely to give again. Staff role in fundraising. Fundraising is not just the job of one person or one department. Every staff member is an ambassador for Best Buddies. That means sharing success stories, providing program data and testimonials, and telling the Best Buddies story in everyday conversations. The most staff advocate for the mission, the more opportunities for support will emerge. It's your responsibility to make sure that all staff are informed of this information and have been able to practice their fundraising pitch with the team so that they feel confident and able to sell the mission of Best Buddies. Ethics and cultural considerations. Fundraising must always be ethical and culturally sensitive. Be respectful of different economic contexts. Always be transparent about donor relationships and clear about where the funds go. Publish impact and financials in an annual report or on your website. And avoid mission drift. Never chase funding that takes you away from your core purpose. BBI fundraising support. Best Buddies International provides direct support in fundraising. Work with your country relationship manager to develop a fundraising plan. Use the proposal templates on the hub and tap into BBI's global network to share strategies and learn from each other. To close, I want to leave you with this thought. Budgets and fundraising are not just administrative tasks, they are the tools that fuel our mission. When we budget strategically, fundraise ethically, and steward donors well, we ensure that our programs are sustainable, impactful, and ready to grow. Thank you for your commitment, your creativity, and your leadership. Together, we are fueling the mission of Best Buddies across the globe.